So I am secretly picking up where we left off at the end of our last mythic adventure. Not a mini-sode, because that was not even a one shot. That was a half shot because we've got the other half coming up. And at the end of that session, the item that we didn't know about being carried by the NPC we didn't know about was damaged by a fireball and then bludgeoning damage and ruptured, and we thought it was destroyed toward the beginning of the session. What we found out at the very end of the session was that the item wasn't destroyed, it was broken, fragmented, fractured. And what I think happened is the arcane core, the battery, the energy source of this device was exposed. And the energy of that arcane fuel source started mingling with the chaotic energy of the wild magic storm, and we determined that it not activated, but it essentially erupted into this luminary lightning that arced out as if on the inside of one of those lightning balls, except that instead of going out in this sort of sphere, it went out and then started hitting through the sky into this circular formation that created portal. Portal opened. The only person who we knew that had percepted it, that had seen this happen, was one of the knights who didn't know what they were looking at. This wasn't the astral sea on the other side of this. This wasn't the void. This wasn't Shadowfell or the Feywild. This was something their brain literally could not interpret. So we're going to figure out what is on the other side of this portal. Where does this portal lead? Um, let's see. It's not going to be the astral plane. We know that. But the astral plane is one of D&D's transitional planes. It's one of the transitive planes. It's one of the fundamental planes, one of the planes of existence. Let's see what the fundamental planes look like here. We have the elemental chaos. That could be interesting. What is elemental chaos? An inner plane. Hmm. That could be really intriguing. Like dominions, realms maintain laws and nature separate from the rest of the chaos, though they dwelt within it. So the abyss, hidden realm, Muspelheim, the undying pyre. Let's see what else we have in the transitive planes. The plane of mirrors, the ethereal plane, spirit world. Could be the spirit world. Let's see here. Could be the void. It wasn't the void. The void is. It could be. It could be wild space. Let's see. We know. Well, let's see. Was it the void? We already said it wasn't the void, but was it the void? 98. Absolutely not the void. Was it the astral plane? 85. Not the astral plane. Um. So was it wild space? I like the idea of wild space being sort of like cosmic chaos. It's not elemental chaos. It's not a plane of chaos, but it is like cosmic chaos. Is it wild space? It's a 49. So it is wild space. Okay. So what sort of things reside in wild space? So I guess the question is, well, it it would be it would be funny in a not so funny way. It would be funny if this portal opened and then nothing came through, because that's a possibility. Like it wasn't opened on purpose. But it would be funny for maybe a second, and then I feel like it would be really boring and it would waste a massive opportunity. So is something going to pass through this portal into the material plane? That's a 29, so that is definitely. going to happen. So what do we have in wild space? Let's see. Space mimic, sun dragon. That's solar dragon. That's interesting. Well, so hmm, it could be that because Saelin's dragon is a solar dragon. Infinity vine? Infinity vines are rapidly growing plants that thrived within small atmospheres in wild space. Huh. Is this another solar dragon? See, I've already got ideas, but is this another solar dragon? That's at 85. That is not another solar dragon. The idea that I had was potentially that this was the mother or father of Zendrar of Saelin's solar dragon. But it's not. So Death Tyrant, M- Moon Dragon, Lunar Dragon, Phase Dragons. Hmm. I like that. I like that because it is a counterbalance to Saelin's solar dragon. Is this creature that's going to come through this portal a moon dragon? That's a 12. I don't know if I don't think that's an extreme yes. It might be an extreme yes. Let's see on chaos factor 6, a 12 is an extreme yes. Yep. 13 is an extreme yes. So that is an extreme yes. So this is given that, I'm going to say this is an adult. Well, is it an adult between I'm deciding between adult and ancient. Is this an ancient lunar dragon coming through this portal? 90. It is not an ancient. So it is going to be an adult lunar dragon, which is go back. A CR 13, 172 hit points. It has phase as a bonus action. It has legendary actions. Okay. And they're typically neutral evil. Is this an enemy? I really want it to be an enemy. Is this an enemy? That's a 6. This is absolutely an enemy. Does it have minions or is it coming through alone? So does this lunar dragon have minions when it comes through? 55. So that is a yes and a squirrel. Because we are on chaos factor 6. So 65 and less is a yes. But a 55 is a random event. So the focus of this random event is going to be 29, which is NPC action. Um, currently, we have, and I dropped my D4. Currently, we have two NPCs, even though one of them has been banished. We have Tim, who is the wizard, who is still on the bridge, and we have Pika, the rock gnome were rat, who has been banished to the hells. And we have the dragon. We have the lunar dragon. So, do we have another NPC to make it an even 4? I don't think we do. We don't. So I'm going to roll a d6. 1 or 2, it's a Tim. 3 or 4, it's Pika. And 5 or 6, it is the dragon. That's a 1, so it's Tim. And this is NPC action, so it's neither negative nor positive. So what action does Tim take? That's 80 and an 18. So 80 is reward and 18 is danger. So Tim is going to reward danger. Well, so Tim is a wood elf wizard. What sort of reactions? I don't think that stat block specifically has any reactions. That's the aristocrat. Oh my god, I have so many stat blocks open here. Um, so this is the champion, which are the knights. I keep calling them champions. They're the knights. Uh, if you heard that bell, it was one of my videos completing. We have the war priest. Okay, that's the arts. Okay, so let's see. He is a wood elf wizard. I gave him the false life spell. Let's see. He does not have any reactions other than what he would normally have, which is an opportunity attack. But I am going to swap out one of his spells. I'm probably honestly, so he's got a fifth level spell of Cloud Kill. I'm gonna look at like third, fourth, and fifth level spells, but I'm gonna swap out his spell for a reaction spell. Let's see, our casting time, reaction, class, wizard, and spell level is gonna be first, second, third, fourth, or fifth. Filter spells. So he is going to have. Well, there are only one, two, three, four, five, six spells that one can have that are reactions, that are wizard spells from one to five. Absorb elements, Featherfall, Shield, Silvery Barbs, Gift of Gab, and Counterspell. This is not strictly by the book. I want to look at level six and see if there's a level six spell. There is. So there is the Soul Cage spell. This spell snatches the soul of a humanoid as it dies and traps it within the tiny cage you use. Okay. So we rolled reward danger? Yes, reward danger. Um I well, I could just have him take his action, essentially jump order because he is, let's see here. It doesn't actually necessarily need to be a spell either. He can just use his reaction to do something. Let's see here. He is third. So I'm going to roll for the storm's action. What happens in the storm first, and then two of the knights will go, and then Tim. So he is going to reward danger. In what way? In what way will he reward danger? Very interesting. Uh, he also has amongst his spells. What else? There we go. He has Mage Hand, Minor Illusion, Poison Spray, Ray of Frost. He has greater invisibility. So I think he is going to cast greater invisibility. You or a creature you touch becomes invisible until the spell ends. Anything the target is carrying becomes invisible along with it. This is the one that doesn't drop if you attack or cast a spell. So currently, there are three people on the bridge with him. There is one of the war priests and two of the knights. So I think, given that there's a dragon coming through this portal, he's going to cast greater invisibility on the war priest because the war priest can cast distant spells. The champions have the only ranged attack the champions have is short bow. Although, to be fair, honestly, I'm going to swap out the short. They each have short bows. I think I'm going to give each of them a heavy crossbow too, because that makes sense. Uh, let's see what the range on a heavy crossbow is. Heavy crossbow, I think is 100 feet normal, 400 feet disadvantage. Crossbow heavy. A heavy crossbow weighs 18 pounds. Um, yes, the range is 100 feet normal, 400 feet at disadvantage. Well, so here's another question then. How far is this portal from the ground? Is this portal more than 200 feet from the ground? It's a 34, so that is. Is it more than 300 feet from the ground? That's a 91. Okay. So it's 300 feet from the ground, which with a heavy crossbow would be a disadvantage. The war priest spells. Let's see. So the war priest has, as a reaction, can do guided strike. The priest gains a +10 bonus to an attack roll made by itself or another creature within 30 feet of it. The priest can make this choice after the roll is made, but before it hits or misses. Interesting. Um, with spell casting, they have light mending, sacred flame has a range of 60 feet. Divine favor, guiding bolt has a range of 120 feet. Lesser restoration, magic weapon, prayer of healing, silence, spiritual weapon has a range of 60 feet. Beacon of hope, crusader's mantle, dispel magic, revivify. Is this? Yeah, this is the right stat block. Flame strike has a range of 60 feet. Hold monster. That would be interesting. Stone skin, guardian of faith. Yeah, because they use that. Hmm. So they don't have. I'm using the wrong stat block. That's amazing. I'm using the legacy stat block. That's why that looked wrong. So the new correct war priest has multi attack, can make two maul attacks and use holy fire. Okay. Holy fire has a range of 60 feet. The spells they can cast are banishment, command, dispel magic, flame strike, guardian of faith, hold person, lesser restoration, and revivify. Banishment would be crazy, especially for this, because if it's the same war priest, that's the war priest that cast banishment on the rock gnome. Um, and the adult lunar dragon doesn't have that great of a charisma and does not have proficiency in the charisma saving throw. So that could be really interesting. That's a DC of 15. So the dragon would have to roll at least a 13. Hold person. No, okay. Healing light. Okay, so greater restoration doesn't, or a greater invisibility isn't that great for this. So how is Tim going to reward danger? I'm not sure. So for now, I'm going to table that. I'll mull that over before next time. I had rolled the 55 on whether the lunar dragon had minions. Um, so lunar dragons are from their habitat is wild space. Let me see here. The stat block has it doesn't have the environment. So I'm just going to Google it. Lunar dragon minions. I was looking in Forgotten Realms for creatures found in wild space. So what other creatures? There's Nyogi. There's puffers. Puffers apparently are space crocodiles. Death tyrants. Eyemonger. Scaver. Space drake? That's apparently just an eel. The Infinity Vine. Void scaver. Hmm. That's challenge rating 11. That would be a problem. Nyogi, you know what? Nyogi might be good because they're not terribly over. So they are essentially space spiders, which is kind of cool. Let's see here then. I think they count as aberrations. Nyogi. Nyogi are CR3s. We're going to go with they are aberrations. They are typically evil. And let's see here. Adult Nyogi. Uh, Interesting. They have, okay. So I think this needs to be something. I'm going to search aberrations and I'm going to search something with fly speeds because I don't think this makes sense to be minions that can't fly. Because if the portal is opening 300 feet in the air, these are essentially, if they can't fly, just going to fall into the material. So I'm going to go with aberrations that have a fly speed, movement, fly. There you are. And we're going to sort by CR, drop down here. We've got flumps and dark mantles and gazers, which I think are like little baby beholders. Yeah, I think that's what Gary was in The Devil in the Deep. Flying horror, spectators. I think spectators are also beholders, aren't they? Yes. Um, Gazers, dark mantles, small aberrations. They're essentially uh, unnatural subterranean hunters, but they have a darkness aura. That is interesting. Aberrations. Let me look at monstrosities. Oh, an Aerosaur would be cool, but those are CR10. Monstrosities. Flying snake. Hypothetically, this should be something that doesn't need to breathe. Gray Scaver is a quarter CR. Unusual nature does not require air and has a fly speed of 40 feet. There's the cockatrice. It may be, come back here. It may be the Gray Scaver. I'm going to look. You know what? I'm just going to search Scaver and see if there are some higher CR versions. There should be. Okay, yeah, here we go. The Void Scaver is a CR11. I will not go with that. The Brown Scaver is a CR4. Does not require air, has a fly speed of 40. Okay. So, first question, simplest question, are the lunar dragons minions scavers? 22, which means they are, and it's a random event. So what is the focus of this random event? It's a 6, which I believe is an ambiguous event. Let me see here. 38. 6 is an ambiguous event. So that's interesting. I'm always intrigued by those. Um, I actually have books everywhere. I actually have a copy of the Mythic magazine that has, let's see, this is the compilation. It might be this one. Um, yes, removing the ambiguity of ambiguous events. So it's basically some tips, guidelines, and tricks on how to work with ambiguous events because the idea of an ambiguous event is specifically that it's a weird thing that happens that doesn't directly tie into the plot, um, which can make it a little more difficult to come up with. So this has things like get colorful, use it as foreshadowing, meaningful standard focus. Meaningful standard focus takes away the ambiguous event and replaces it with a meaningful event. If ambiguous events are not your cup of tea, consider changing it into something else. You can use the ambiguous event entry on the standard event focus table as a custom theme element. In this case, you could consider it to be a meaningful event instead of an ambiguous event. This could be the direct opposite of what an ambiguous event is. A meaningful event would have immediate meaning and context in your adventure. I'm going to roll to see what this ambiguous event would be and then make the decision from there. So, this ambiguous event, the actions of this ambiguous event are 14 and 18. So, block, danger. Interesting. Block, danger. See, the most immediate thing I think of is something that is going to help protect the party against the lunar dragon. But that's not at all ambiguous. That's very clear. Um, hmm. So I'm going to hold on to that too, because currently we have. So here's the thing, right? We have Tim who had his random event, which was reward danger. And now we have an ambiguous event that is block danger. So I think the two have to be related. This is essentially whatever's happening with Tim is an ambiguous event. I think Tim absorbed some of the wild magic from the storm because the storm he was in the storm when it struck. He got hit with the fireball. Um, is there a wild magic wizard subclass? No, it's a sorcerer. Wild magic wizard. I mean, essentially, it's a wild magic sorcerer. The difference between a sorcerer and a wizard is study. So we're going to treat it as if, for this moment, what we're going to do is we're going to say that when he was struck by that fireball, and while he was in the storm for those 12 seconds, for those 2 rounds, he effectively took one level of wild magic sorcerer. So he hasn't leveled up. I mean, I guess technically he has leveled up, but he absorbed some of the wild magic of the storm. And so uh the reward danger and the block danger are going to be a roll on the wild magic table. Um and I'm not going to make that roll now. I'm going to make that roll at the top of the next round. And I'm going to make it when it comes to his turn, it won't be his reaction. It'll just at the top of his turn, it'll happen. And then the thing that happens, if there's no way to interpret it as beneficial, because it was reward danger and then block danger, that feels like it's beneficial to the party. I mean, I'll roll for it. Is this random ambiguous event beneficial to the party? 42, it is. So if the wild magic surge that comes from Tim cannot be interpreted in any beneficial way, I'll just re-roll it. But if it can, I will interpret whatever that roll is in a way that benefits the party. So there are scavers also coming through. I guess we need to know, well, we need to know what type. Unfortunately, the lowest type is a gray scaver. The next lowest is a brown scaver. So we go from 1/4 up to 4. Um, I like I like higher CR. So a CR4 brown scaver has 51 hit points, AC of 13. Um, I would rather have several of those than have like a horde of gray scavers because gray scavers are CR 1/4, have 19 hit points and an AC of 12. Uh, So, are these brown scabbers? That's 44. So it's a yes, and another random event. And so this random event is another 6. So another ambiguous event. And the actions are going to be 56 and 3. So the actions here of this ambiguous random event are inquire and agreement. An ambiguous event about inquiring after an agreement. Hmm. Is this related to Tim again? I feel like it ought to be related to Tim, and now that I'm thinking of it, I think it is, and I think I know what it is. 36. It is about Tim, and it's because of the device that he was carrying, which I need to determine the nature of, which is part of what I also want to do here. Um, so the Inquire agreement is about why he was going wherever he was going. He was taking this device with him somewhere. And I think we had thrown the idea out that it was damaged in some way or was not functioning properly. And so he was taking it back to the tinker, the artificer who had created it to get it looked at. And then, of course, it got smashed and the energy core got exposed. And that was what interacted with the wild magic to open this portal. So it would imply to me that this device is in some way related to portals. I don't necessarily like the idea that it just opens portals. Um, I'm less averse to the idea that it detects portals, um, possibly that it seals portals, but I'm not going to make that call yet. The random event that is the ambiguous event about inquire agreement has something to do with it's something to do with the agreement between Tim and this artificer. So he wasn't just given this item as a gift, it was part of some sort of agreement. So this agreement, is it some currently unknown agreement between Tim and this artificer? 51 on a chaos factor of 6 is a yes. Uh, so is this something he says out loud? 98, absolutely not. Okay. So it's an event. Is it something he does? I don't think it would be, but is it something that Tim does? 14, it absolutely is. Not an extreme yes, but it is something he does to inquire about agreement. Does he have the sending spell? 58, he does have the sending spell. So does he cast sending to the artificer? 39, he does. Okay. So, um, I will keep that in mind. So on his turn, he is going to, and I like the idea then of knowing this, but not describing it to Nimue. Basically, it's going to be that this wild magic surge goes off centered on him, benefits the party, and that's it for his turn. She won't know that that he casts sending also, because just to double check, um, let's see here, spells. Sending. Let's see if it's even a wizard spell. The dice said that he has it, so it doesn't matter if it's a wizard spell. It is a wizard spell, and it is third level. So we're going to replace one of his third level spells with it, which is going to be third level fly and lightning. But we're going to replace fly um, with that. So he cannot fly, but he can cast sending. You send a short message of 25 words or fewer to a creature you've met. It has a verbal, a somatic, and a material component. So they would hear him and see him, depending on what the the wild magic surge is. Um, but he will say something out loud and he will make somatic gestures. Um, I'm intrigued to know, is this artificer someone that I, as the player, as the DM, know, or is this a completely unknown character? 78. It is an unknown character. Okay, so this is because my instinct was to say that it was Leander. Now, it wouldn't be Leander at this point because Leander is only level 3 and he would not be at the point of tinkering to make a device that can detect or open or close portals. Uh, well, no, because I already rolled to see if it was somebody I know, and it's not. My second instinct was to say that it's Leander's mentor, who is Helenor Tessera. Uh, but it's not somebody that I know of. So it is a completely new, completely separate character. I'm not going to roll for that unless that somehow comes up later. All right. So these are brown scavers. Click on that. We know the brown scavers, which are CR4. So the question is, how many of them are there going to be? Um, are there more than? I like to pick a die number. So are there going to be more than at 51 hit points? Are there going to be more than 6 of these brown scavers? 59 on a chaos factor of 6 is a yes. So are there more than 8? 48 is a yes. Are there more than 10? A 1 is an absolute yes. Are there more than 12? This could pose a problem. 33. So this says there are more than 12. So this could be interesting then. This says there's more than 12 with a 33, so that's a random event. The event focus is 81. This might give us a clue as to this swarm of scavers. 81 is PC positive. Interesting. So what is the action of this PC positive random event? 95 and 20. So 95 is triumph and 20 is depletion. Okay. Okay. So then what is going to the nature of what's going to happen? Triumph of depletion is there is a horde of scavers coming through this portal. Um, Depletion is going to be the depletion of this group, of cutting off this swarm, and obviously triumphing in the depletion of this swarm. Um, Now, I don't know that this is necessarily something. This isn't necessarily something that someone does. It is something that benefits the party, though. See, now that implies is that is this PC positive random event Tim's wild magic surge? 76. It's not. So it's something separate. Is this something that someone does in this environment? 29. Is this a character that we have not encountered yet? 74. It's not. So this is somebody who's already there. Okay. Um, so this would seem to probably be one of the war priests, but possibly one of the champions. I don't think it's one of the champions. Uh, those are coats of arms. The champions have the short bow and the great sword, and indomitable. The war priests have spell casting. They have banishment. Banishment is only one creature. Uh, Maybe dispel magic because maybe they're able to use. See, dispel magic only works on spells. Any spell of third level or lower. The portal was not created by a spell. It was created by chaotic magical energy interactions. Flame strike, hold person, revivify. Hmm. Triumph of depletion. Well, what do we have? They're unaligned. They have a swallowing bite, and that's it. They have one attack. Hmm. What other? Okay, so this is someone who's already there. So, who is already there in this battle? We have the champ. We have one, two, three, four, five champions. We have Saelihn. We have two priests, and we have Tim, and we have Zendrath, who is Saelin's solar dragon. So, it might be the solar dragon that does this. I think it is the solar dragon. Triumph over depletion. The solar dragon has a photonic breath weapon. The dragon exhales a flashing mode of radiant energy that travels to a point the dragon can see within 120 feet of itself. So the dragon has a 60-foot fly speed. Uh, if the dragon flies 60 feet, then they will be within 180 feet of the portal. Okay, so they wouldn't be close enough to use that on the portal itself, but they may be able to use. Essentially, this random event would be. Honestly, I kind of like the idea that this random event is effectively a legendary action. So here's the question. Is this random event, this triumph of depletion, is this something that Zendrath does? That's a 50. So that's a yes. Um, is it essentially a free use of the photonic breath weapon against the scabbers? 69. It's not. But it is something. You know what? So Zendrath is a young solar dragon. Let's see what adult solar dragons can do because I may just have it be a free use of one free use of a thing that an adult solar dragon can do. Burst of light. So, the dragon emits magical light in a 30-foot radius sphere centered on itself. Each creature in this area must succeed on a DC 23 wisdom saving throw or be blinded until the end of its next turn. Uh, hmm. I like that. If I stick to the rules, uh, Zendrath would have to be within 30 feet of the scavers for this to work, or essentially get into the swarm. Um, now uh, the adult solar dragon's photonic breath weapon has a 180-foot range and a 30-foot radius and does 10d10 of radiant damage. So if they flew the 60 feet, they'd be within 200. They'd have a 240 foot. They'd be 60 foot from the portal. I like burst of light. I'm going to use burst of light. Um, it's going to be burst of light. I don't know how we're going to make it. I don't know how it's going to happen. The easiest way, the one that makes the most sense, is if Nimue has the dragon like fly into melee. And that makes the most sense because there is a dragon coming through. You'd want to send your dragon to deal with the dragon, um, especially given currently it's the only thing that can fly. So if that happens, and assuming that happens, which I feel like is likely, the dragon and Saelihn will be the only two up there with the scabbers. So that burst of light then will be that random event, which will aid in the depletion or aid in the triumph of depletion against these scavers. Now the question is, how many scavers are there? Because we rolled that there are more than 12. So I'm going to roll a d20 and we're going to see what the d20 says. The d20 says 19. That's going to be real bad. I'm going to mark that down here. The d20 says, so let's see, we've got a lunar dragon, which is a CR 13. Adult lunar dragon is a CR 13. It's got an AC of 17 and 172 hit points. The scavers, brown scaver, is. Where'd you go? There you are. Brown scaver is a CR 4 with an AC of 13 and 51 hit points. And with it being a wisdom saving throw, the scavers have a +0 to their save. So so it actually will not matter. They will all fail because it's a DC 23 wisdom saving throw. They cannot roll that. So every scaver in range is going to be blinded. This is a 60-foot sphere. Yep, because it's a 30-foot radius. I think we had determined that yesterday that this a 60-foot sphere is 2,827 square feet. Area of a oh no, that was a circle. We're going to do area of a sphere. Calculating. There we go. So the radius is 30 feet. The area is 11,309 cubic feet. Brown scavers are large monstrosities. And a large creature, I believe, is 10 foot, 8, 9, 10 foot or so. D&D size charts. Let's see here. Large is 10 by 10. Okay. 10 by 10, so 100 cubic feet. It's not actually 100 cubic feet, but we're going to treat it that way. Right? Because is it? No, wait. We're going to say, let's see, area of a cube, one edge being 10 feet. The area is 600 square feet. I'm sorry. So essentially the way that works is that for every 600 cubic foot, not square feet, cubic foot space, there's one scaver. So 11,309 divided by 600 equals 18. Amazing. So, wow. Okay. Okay. So hypothetically, all but one of the scavers could be in the area of this burst of light. Are are 18? Are there 18 of the 19 scavers in this area of effect? 11. So yes, they're all in the area of effect. 18 of the 19 are in the area of effect, and it's another random event. 18 in the area of effect. It's also an extreme yes. So what is the focus of this random event? That's, well, it's hypothetically a 31. One of them didn't make it into the okay, so it's that roll was a 92. 92 is current context. Yes. 31 is NPC action. So we have Tim, we have the dragon. I'm not going to count the minions as NPCs. Basically, the dragon and its minions, and then we still have Pika. We're going to go in the other way though, because we're going to go in order that they were introduced. So Tim is one and two, Pika is three and four, and the dragon is five and six. So who is the NPC of this NPC action? Three is Pika, and it's a current context event. So this could be interesting. We established because she nat one on her saving throw and her charisma save was a -1, so she literally rolled a 0 on the saving throw. We established that the banishment spell went off immediately, did not require concentration, and sent her to the hells because we reflavored her as a fiend. So she was sent back to the plane she is from. So what is Pika doing in the hells that is related to the current context? This could be really interesting. It's a 22, which is not a random event when you're rolling for meaning. 22 is conceal, and an 80 reassurance. Conceal reassurance. Hmm. I I wonder then because we don't know anything about Pika. She climbed up out of that chasm, and then attacked the war priest. So I guess part of the question is, did she attack them? Was this essentially an assassination attempt? Did she know who the prince was? Did she attack this group because she wanted to attack this group, or did she just attack whoever she saw? Did she attack this group knowing who they were? 63 is just barely a yes. So then I wonder, given that we reflavored her as a fiend, if she was sent there by a demon or a devil to do this, was Pika sent to the material plane on an assassination mission by a devil, demon, by a fiendish character, a fiendish supervisor? That's a 6. She absolutely was. Okay. So she was a fiendish assassin acting on behalf of a fiendish benefit, an infernal benefactor. Um, so the role was reassurance, conceal, 22, conceal reassurance. So I think what she's doing is it's related to the current context insofar as it's related to her failed attempt on the prince. Um, but it's not anything the character is going to know about. She essentially reappeared in the court of the devil. Is it a devil or a demon? Was this? It's the hell, so technically it should be a devil. Was this a devil? 51. It is. It's a devil. So she essentially reappeared in the court of the devil that had sent her there to attempt to assassinate the prince. And she is reassuring this devil that she will succeed. The concealed part is the fact that it's concealed from the party. The party has no idea because she's in the hells. Um, so interesting. So we had a strange little cutaway to Pika in the hells before her. So a devil is this a you know what? I'm gonna roll instead of asking a yes no. Uh, creature description, creature ability, creature descriptors. This is for what is give me some description of this devil. 15 is Claude, yes, and 81 is Stinger. Interesting. So this is like a scorpion devil. You know what it is? I think it's a barbed devil because I think barbed devils have stingers. I'm pretty sure. So let's find out here. Barbed devils have claws and tail. Okay. So let's see. What other devils are there? I know there are chain devils, bearded devils. All right, let's see how. Spined devil has a fork and a tail spine. Bearded devil, barbed devil, dust devil, chain devil has yeah bone devil. Bone devil has infernal sting. There we go. It is a bone devil. It has claws and an infernal sting. Perfect. Amazing. Bone devils are gaunt. So, for fun, there is a D4 chart on the Bone Devil stat block. Bone Devil objectives. 1d4. The Bone Devil seeks to, on a 2, convey a message or make an example of someone in the name of an archdevil. So this Bone Devil is working on behalf of an archdevil, and the message, the making the example, is attempting to assassinate the Prince Saelihn on behalf of this archdevil. So again, this is me going down rabbit holes that I actually don't need to go down. But so Forgotten Realms, archdevil. Let's see what archdevils we have. Archdevils by layer. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 9. So there are 9, but then there are, in this case, also exiled archdevils. So there's 10 categories. So I'm going to roll a d10 to see. Essentially, this will tell me what level of hell Pika got sent to. 3. So that's Manaurus. Interesting. So the archdevils of Manaurus just listed here are Mammon, Glaw, Baal, uh, Focalor. Can't pronounce that one. It should have a pronunciation guide. Uh, Carcrinolus and Melkin. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 on here. D6. 1. Mammon, the ruler of Manaros and the patron of greed. So this really ties in well because the thing that happened in Dunson, the sort of background story that we saw the instigation of in Horns of a Minotaur, we saw the effect of at the very end of the Easy Peasy Speakeasy. And we're going to get more at the end of this story here with the prince. Had to do with a plot that results in all of the gold in the town of Dunson being turned to iron. So the idea that Mammon is in some way connected to it makes perfect sense because he's the Lord of Greed. And so Mammon instructed this Bone Devil to make an example of Prince Saelihn. And the Bone Devil sent Pika, the essentially gnomish were rat, to make the assassination attempt. And it might not have even been an assassination attempt. That's another thing I'm curious about. Was Pika trying to assassinate Saelihn or injure? So was Pika attempting to kill Saelihn? Whoop, 58. So that's a yes. Okay. So it was an assassination attempt, a horribly failed assassination attempt, but an assassination attempt nevertheless. Okay. With the strings being pulled by Mammon, the Lord of Manaurus, which is additionally interesting because Manaurus is where soul coins are created. And soul coins are made of iron. So we don't know this yet. The gold that got changed into iron, did it get changed into infernal iron? 34. This is not regular iron. This is infernal iron. And infernal iron is the material from which soul coins are made. Okay. Fascinating. Let's see here. Infernal iron. There we go. Is a metallic substance that was found in the nine hells. Battle standard. Hellfire weapons can be made from infernal iron. Infernal war machines can. Soul coins. And steel watchers. Constructs conceived of and created by Gondians of Baldur's Gate. Among the unique objects made from infernal iron were the gargantuan spikes and chains that bound the city of Ilterel to Avernus. Okay. So something about this plot is involves um, the creation. It's twofold because it involves the destruction, well, the transmutation, but the removal of gold from the material plane, which will have economic impact, but also the creation of more infernal iron. This makes me wonder if there is, if the infernal iron is running out, and so this plot was to create more, in the like artificially create more, and because it's becoming more scarce in the hells, creating more of it will make the new infernal iron insanely valuable and basically secure Mammon's stranglehold over the economics of the hells. Okay, that is really it's really great information that almost certainly will not come up in this one shot, but it's great information to have in the background because it will inform like it means that the assassination attempt on Saelihn and the assassination of the Minotaur are connected. It tells me that the orc who was hired to kill the Minotaur, I was already pretty sure that orc had been hired by one of the provosts of one of the other towns. So, is it the case? Was that orcish assassin hired by one of the provosts of the other towns that have made this deal with Dunstan? 29, so they were. But if it's the same sort of scenario, was that provost instructed to do so by either the Barb Devil or Mammon? Essentially, does the chain of command go from that provost back to Mammon by however many degrees of separation there may be? 80, it does not. Hmm. Maybe the question isn't, well, hmm. Did this provost hire this orcish assassin on their own for their own reasons? That's a 60. That's a 60, so that's a yes at a chaos factor of 6. Huh. Now, here's the question, though. Was the provost unconsciously manipulated by Mammon? 12. They were. Okay. So it wasn't like this provost didn't have a dream and like Mammon came to them and said, "You must go hire." This was an inception sort of thing. So this provost had this intrusive thought. They had this idea that they were going to do this. They were going to hire this. They were going to hire someone to kill this Minotaur. They ended up hiring the orc, but the seed of that idea was planted by Mammon without this provost knowledge. So they are connected, and the individual behind this is Mammon the Archdevil. Fantastic. Okay, so the thing I came here to do, I haven't even done yet. I have figured out there is one lunar dragon, uh, and 19 brown scavers coming through this portal. That was 5 and 2, so there is currently, well, I now have to move these because I had the Astral Elf Aristocrat, which is Saelihn. I had 5 champions, which are her knights, and I have the 2 war priests. But now I have to add in one Wood Elf Wizard, who is a CR. He's lower because he's got 45 hit points. He's a CR7. Okay. With an AC of currently 15 because he has mage armor up and 45 hit points. I think he's fully, well, he's not technically fully healed because he gave himself temp hit points, which didn't heal those wounds, but he did get one of them healed. So he's effectively at full health. Um, but he needs to go down here because I need to add Saelin's young solar dragon, who is a CR, I believe, 7. All right. All right. Young solar dragon, CR9. Okay. With an AC of 16 and 178 hit points. So this is a ridiculously, let's see here. Just for funsies. So Saelihn has 103 hit points. Her dragon has 178. Each of the champions has 143 hit points. Each of the war priests has 117 hit points, and the wood elf Tim has 45 hit points. So amongst this group, there are a grand total of 1,275 hit points. Now, the lunar dragon that's coming through is an adult. I see. I already rolled to say that it wasn't. Well, okay, so it's an adult lunar dragon. I was gonna say I'm tempted to make an ancient because it's going up against such a stacked party, but I don't need to because it has 19 brown scavers with it, um, which gives that group a grand total of 1,141 hit points. Um, not that is a necessarily an ideal comparison, but uh, it's a quick and dirty mathematical comparison. Okay, so the reason I came here was to figure out what that device that Tim had did. So we've got some interesting charts here we can look at. We've got cryptic message curses. Is that item cursed? I'm gonna say that's very unlikely, but on a chaos factor of 6, very unlikely is still a 35%. I'm gonna give it a 30% chance. Nearly impossible would be 25%. I'm gonna give it a 30% chance that that item is cursed. That's a 66, which is a no and a random event. So the focus of this random event is 05, which is a remote event. So what is the action of this remote event? 01 and 50. 01 is abandon and 50 is investment. Abandon investment that just makes me think that at this point, this is the moment when the Minotaur dies and all of the gold in Dunson, in and around Dunson, gets turned to infernal iron because the investment of gold has been abandoned at that point. All right, so that makes perfect sense. Um, so it's not cursed. We already established that. That's what are we asking here? We are asking if the item was cursed. The item is not cursed. Domicile descriptors, dungeon traps, forest descriptors, gods, legends, locations, magic item descriptors. I am going to roll on legends for fun. I'm going to roll on magic item descriptors first. So, what is a descriptor of the item that Tim was carrying? 9 is bestow, and 2 is animate, bestow animation. Well, and the bestow part is that it was given to him by someone else, so it was bestowed upon him, but it can animate things. It bestows animation. It's like, um, is it animate object is the spell? Animate object is a spell. So there are actually two things. There's the spell animate object, which is a fifth level transmutation spell. Objects come to life at your command. Choose up to 10 non magical objects within range that are not being worn or carried. Medium targets count as two. Large targets count as four. Huge targets count as eight objects. You can't animate any object larger than huge. Each target animates and becomes a creature under your control until the spell ends or until reduced to 0 hit points. And then there's okay. Um, so animate object is a spell. There is also the Bard of the College of Creation. Bard 5e has as a class feature an ability. Where are you at here? Creation. Here we go. From Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Performance of Creation. Animating performance. Here we go. At fifth level, as an action, you can animate one large or smaller non-magical object within 30 feet of you that isn't being worn or carried. The animate item uses the dancing item stat block, and that stat block is in here. So there are two options essentially, but they're both essentially the same option. So this item could be used to animate objects. Is there an item that does that? D&D item that animates objects. Innovative use, animate objects, tips, tactics, animate object spells, animate objects. There is not currently an official object. So that's what this item could do. It could animate objects. Um, what I'm going to roll twice on legends, just for fun. 47 and 87. So 47 is legends. 47 is harm, and 87 is pursue. Well, pursue harm or the harm of pursuit. So I wonder if this is a legend that caused this artificer to create this item. Let's go to the dice. Is this legend about harm and pursue, the pursuit of harm? Is this legend the reason that this artificer created this device? That's a one. That is an absolute yes. Um, So then this device in some way is meant to. So the legend is probably about something that is going to pursue harm. It is a legend foretelling of a villain of some sort. And this device is designed to combat that villain in some way. Um, by animating objects, that's interesting. I don't know why. It doesn't technically matter why. Um, but it is, again, good information to have. The funny part is that was the quickest. We now know that this is a device that animates objects. Um, that was given to Tim. Well, I rolled bestow on magic item descriptors. I think I may have already rolled this, but I am going to roll it again right now. Was this item given to Tim by this artificer on purpose? So the options, essentially, the options I'm thinking are that Tim stole it, um, or that it was stolen by someone else and Tim acquired it, and that's why he's bringing it back. Now we did say that it was damaged, and that's why he was bringing it back. But now I want to know: did this artificer give this device to Tim deliberately? 99. Absolutely not. Did Tim steal this item? 17. He sure did. Wow. So Tim fucking stole this item. So that's ballsy because he stole the item, but now he's going back to the person who created it because it was malfunctioning. Now, here's the question: was it malfunctioning, or was he unable to attune to it? So it wasn't necessarily that it was malfunctioning, it was that he couldn't use it. Was the device functional but unusable by Tim? 67 is just barely a no. Is the device damaged? Or was the device non-functional? 62 is just barely a yes. So, okay. Is Tim taking the item back to the same artificer that created it? 39, he is. I thought maybe he was taking it to a different artificer that he knows to try to take a look at it. He's taking it back to the same artificer. I'm going to roll on the motivation table to see if it tells me anything unknown about why he would do. Why specifically is Tim taking this item back to the artificer he stole it from? Other than to get it fixed, that's obviously the case. That's an 80 on the motivation chart. Character motivations. 80 is pride. 33 is gratify. He's taking it back to the artificer to gratify his own pride? This is like a flex move. So he's taking back this busted item. So did the item work when he stole it? 56, it did. So yeah, this is just a full-blown flex. He had the item, he was using it, it stopped working, and now he's just straight up gratifying his own pride, as in like I stole this from you. I'm so good that I was able to steal this from you, and I'm so good that I'm going to bring it back to you to get you to fix it. Wow. You know what we didn't do was roll on background and identity for Tim. We just sort of assumed he was a good guy. So what is Tim's identity? That's a 43, which is a hero. Okay. And 22 is dependent. So is he the dependent of a hero? Can he be claimed on a hero's taxes? Um, is I mean, I rolled hero for his identity, but he's dependent on someone or something else, which is probably what he stole the item for. Did Tim steal that item for the benefit of the person he is dependent on? 79, he didn't. Hmm. So, what was his motive for stealing that item? 92 and a 24. 92 is stop and 24 is failure. Interesting. Was he trying to stop the Okay, so he's dependent on someone. The person he's dependent on, were they having trouble? Were they struggling? Were they failing at something? And he stole this item in order to stop them from failing at the thing. That's a 10. Yeah. Okay. So what's his background? 34. 34 is dispute. And 12 is bleak. Bleak dispute. Hmm. Well, um, yeah. Is he a, okay, how old is he? Is Tim, is Tim a teenager? 55. Amazing. So Tim is a teenager. At most he's 19. I'm just going to say he's 19. Um, 55 is a random event. The first thought that I had was Bleak Dispute was a divorce between his parents splitting up. Um, what is the focus of this random event? 97 is current context. And what are the actions of this current context random event? We have an 8 and a 28. So that's going to be 8 is attack, and 28 is expectation. Attack expectation. Well, the dice have attacked my expectation about Tim. Um, so this is current context. There is an attack on expectations. Um, I mean, to be fair, there's about to be an attack on this party by this lunar dragon and its minion of its horde of scavers. So we can treat it like that. But we do know now that Tim is 19 years old. Is the bleak dispute from his background his parents divorcing? 19 it is. Or I'm not sorry, 16. So yes. Um, and so the person he's dependent on is this the parent he stayed with. 32. It is. Did he choose the parent that needed him more? 46. He did. Um, Now I'm really, really curious why a device that animates objects would help the parent that he is dependent on at something they're failing at. The question is what is that parent failing at? I'm gonna roll this as an action because to be failing you have to be doing something. Um, I'm not gonna roll for which parent it is yet, but I'm going to roll this as an action. What was slash is the action that Tim's parent was failing at? That's cocked, weirdly. It's a 41 and a 61. 41 is escape and 61 is object. Wow. So the device can animate objects. So this parent is trapped or imprisoned? Is the parent he's dependent on in prison? 29. Yeah. Are they in prison in Dunson? 91. They are not. Okay, here's a really wild question. I find this extraordinarily unlikely. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I'm going to say it is nearly impossible. At a chaos factor of 6, there's a 25% chance. At a chaos factor of 6, there's a 15% chance that something impossible is the case. Um, I don't remember if we rolled for what Tim is. He's a wizard. We know that. Is is Tim's parent the Minotaur? Because the Minotaur was in prison in Dunson, but isn't anymore because it's dead. So I'm gonna say it's a 20% chance. It's between impossible and nearly impossible. It's really nearly impossible. It's almost certainly impossible. 20% chance. Is Tim the child of the Minotaur? 88. He is not, but it's not a random event because it's over the chaos factor. Okay. So uh the parent he's dependent on is in prison, but not in Dunson. So is the I guess it really doesn't matter. The hmm, yeah, I guess it really doesn't matter. In terms of geography, it would be a town past Dunson in the direction that Aoife had come because he's headed from Dunson out. Um, mm, this is a technical question. This is a rules lawyery question. Is the parent that he's dependent on imprisoned in a mirror of life trapping. That's a 50. They are. Is the mirror of life trapping in Dunson? 29. Yes. So that's why the parent is not imprisoned in Dunson. Because when you're imprisoned in a mirror of life trapping, you are in an extra dimensional space. So you're not in the material plane. So the parent is not imprisoned in Dunson. The parent is imprisoned in a mirror of life trapping that is currently in Dunson. Now, how would animate object help this parent to escape that? Because animate object can't be used on a mirror of life trapping because in mirror of life trapping is a magical item. Hmm. I'm intrigued. I don't know. I don't know what to roll for that. I don't know if there's a table that can give me that. Um, let's see. We know magic. Well, I already rolled a magic item descriptor. That was what gave us bestow animate. Names, noble houses, objects, plot twists. I am going to roll on plot twists here in a moment. Powers, scavenging results, smells, sounds, spell effects, starship descriptors, terrain descriptors, undead descriptors, visions, and dreams. I'm going to roll on plot twists. I'm actually going to. Is there a plot twist related to how this device could potentially release this parent? 42. So, yes. So, what is the plot twist? 14 whoop, and 58. 14 is control, and 58 is news. But you know what? I'm going to re-roll that because the 58, one of the die landed outside. And this, I've seen this done before where 79 is repeat. So no, it was news. So it's control news. But here's the thing. 58 is news. 59 is object. So somehow, is this device capable of controlling a mirror of life trapping? I really, really like that idea. So I'm actually going to say that is, it's already a 65% chance. If I say it's likely, that makes it a 75% chance. I'm going to say then it is a 70% chance. Is this device capable of controlling a mirror of life trapping? 73. I said it was a 70% chance. All right. I'm going to re-roll that and I'm going to actually reduce the chances. I'm going to say 50-50. Despite liking it, I'm going to say if the odds are 50-50, so it's a 65% chance, is this device capable of controlling a mirror of life trapping in some way? That's a 60. And I'm going to confirm dice, is this device actually capable of controlling a mirror of life trapping? This is a 50-50, 50% chance. So any 50 or lower, this device is capable of controlling a mirror of life trapping. That's a 95. So it's not. um, I'm actually going to disregard most of those rolls. It is. This device is in some way capable of controlling a mirror of life trapping. Um, I don't know if it's through its animate ability though, and this might be the kind of case of a device being able to be used for something else. Like this was not its intended purpose. This was the sort of thing that was discovered accidentally, and so um, it was not created to control a mirror of life trapping. It just happens for some weird reason to be able to. And I have a really cool idea of why I think that might be the case. I'm going to say this is likely, which makes it a 75% chance. So the idea is that there are devices where you use small mirror, I mean lasers essentially use small mirrors to amplify light. Does this device use tiny shards of a broken mirror of life trapping as part of its mechanism? And that's why it's able to control mirrors of life trapping. Is that the case? 41. It sure enough is. So the glass used, now here's the real question. The glass that was used, did the tinkerer know that this was a broken mirror of life trapping, or did the tinkerer think that this was just glass, that was just mirror? Because once a mirror of life trapping is broken, it loses its magical effects, and the shards become just normal mirror shards. So, did this tinkerer know that this was a mirror of life trapping that they used to make this device? Did they know that? 72 on a 65. They did not know that. That's why this is an unintended effect. They didn't know that those glass shards came from a mirror of life trapping. They thought this was just pieces of a mirror. They used it to make this device. When the shards, which still had a tiny residue of the magical nature of a mirror of life trapping, were charged by whatever the core, the arcane core of this device is, the interaction made this device capable of controlling mirrors of life trapping. In what way? Don't know. Doesn't matter. Um, it's being used essentially as a magical lockpick. It's being used to help the parent who is trapped in this mirror of life trapping escape by picking the lock that is the mirror of life trapping. A big problem or a big difficulty would be figuring out which of the extra dimensional cells the parent was in, because there are 12. And if you don't know, you can still find the person, because if you say the name of a creature that is trapped in a mirror of life trapping, they appear on the other side of the glass. Of course, getting access to that mirror would, I imagine, be very difficult because it's holding prisoners. So it wouldn't just be available for the public to look at. But that is how this object is able to control mirrors of life trapping. This is why it was stolen by Tim. Um, I'm still perplexed and befuddled by the fact that he's ballsy enough to take it back to the tinker who created. And you know what? It might just be a case of um, that he doesn't think he's, he doesn't think this was a bad enough infraction that like he's risking his life by going back. And the reward of doing it, of getting this object fixed and being able to use it to free his parent, is worth the risk. And so he's gonna go back there and be like, "Hey, I stole this from you, however long ago, and it's busted. Sorry about that. I need it fixed because I need to use it to get my parent out. Once my parent's out, I'll bring it back, man. I like, I stole it. Like, did he steal it like heistish, or was this like a theft of opportunity? Was it a theft of opportunity, a non-malicious theft? 27. Yeah. So this was a non-malicious theft. Um, so, and it was probably a case of like it was out somewhere and he was able to take it, and like it was was it a case of he took it because there was not an opportunity to ask the tinkerer permission? 100, absolutely not. So he did steal it on purpose, but yeah, now he's going back and he's like, it's not working right anymore. I need to get it fixed. Sorry I stole it. I was gonna just use it and bring it back, but it wasn't working. I like the idea that he sort of, because he didn't really know the nature of it, he sort of over overstrained it, and so that's why it malfunctioned. Um, and so he's like, yeah, I didn't really know how to use it. It's a magic item. I was using it on a magic item. Animate objects is supposed to work on magic items. So, I think there was a little magic feedback, kind of blew out one of the speakers on the amplifier. And He's he's like, if you could fix it up, I was gonna be bringing it back, but it didn't work. So if you fix it up, I'll go use it. I'll bring it right back, and we'll be square. That is fantastic. All right. So Tim the thief, because he's trying to break his parent. I keep saying parent. Is this Tim's father who is imprisoned here? Whoop, 31. It is. See, now this is the rabbit hole because now I want to know why Tim's father was in prison. I don't think it had anything to do with a divorce. I kind of feel like the divorce happened because he was imprisoned, and it was one of those, I guess, common law divorces because once he was in prison, his wife, Tim's mother, was like, "Well, I got to move on with my life. You're in prison," and so the divorce, the bleak separation, um, that happened was essentially she divorced her husband in absentia. Um, but why? What did I'm gonna roll as I'm gonna you know what? I'm gonna roll it as a random event. I don't really need to roll a focus, but I will. 38 is well, it's NPC action, which makes sense. So, what is the action? What was the crime? What was the action that Tim's father committed to be imprisoned? 36 and 61. 36 is distrust, and 61 is object. Wow. Wow. So what is going on? There's a lot of object here going on in this backstory. Distrust object. My instinct is that this is like a golden calf situation, almost a cult situation where he basically went against the tenets of, I'm going to call it a faith rather than a cult because cult already has a negative connotation to it, but that um, was Tim's father, were Tim's parents members of a theological faith that had an object at the center of it. 69. No. So that's because on a chaos factor of 6, the 65 is a yes, 65 or lower. Distrust object. I don't know. That feels likely, though. If the odds are likely, which makes it 75%, was that the case that Tim's parents, let me change the question, and I'll still make it likely. Was Tim's father a member of a theological organization of faith, a cult that had an object, a mystical object at the center of it? That's a 10. So then my instinct, and I'll roll for it, but I'm going to roll for it out of habit. I think the case is that his mother was not a member of that organization, which is why it was a 69 on a 65. It was just barely a no. Was Tim's mother a member of that cult? That's a 40. That says she was. Um, Not going to worry about that. I already said she wasn't, and that I think probably was a big part of the separation. Um, And so what I think then happened was Tim's father lost his, essentially this whatever this mystical object is was the center of this cult's faith. They worship this object as if it were a god. And Tim's father lost his faith in it. He began to distrust the myths and the legends surrounding this object. And the rest of the cult imprisoned him for it in this mirror of life trapping. We don't know what town he's in, but I like that this is a thing that exists out in a town somewhere. I do know of one town. It would actually be really interesting if this were the case. And actually, now that I'm thinking of this, this would explain why Leander and Aoife were in the town they were in. So the town that Aoife and Leander were in at the beginning of Battle of Blood and Bone in January of 2022 I named it Everborough, and it's near the town of Taurus. Um, but that was the town of Everborough. Is this mirror of life trapping? And is this cult in the town of Eberborough? 27. It is. So, in some way, this is why Aoife and Leander end up in Everborough at the beginning of Battle in Blood and Bone. It's tied up with Tim's story. Um, and the fact that Leander is a tinkerer and um, Tim had stolen this device from a tinkerer, from an artificer. So here's a question. Does Leander know the tinkerer that Tim stole this device from? That's a 6. He absolutely does. So what, and an exceptional yes. The tinkerer who created this device, it wasn't Helenor and it wasn't Leander because I already rolled it as somebody I don't know about yet. It is an unknown character, but it is another student of Helenor's. So it's somebody that Leander worked with and knows personally. Okay. Um, but yes, so this explains why Aoife and Leander were in Everborough. And it may actually then wind up being the story that happened immediately before that that one shot. So they'd be at level 3 for it. And we're undoubtedly going to I'm going to run that. We're going to get there. Um, there's actually fascinatingly there's a couple of stories in between there because we're currently building up to Aoife first meeting Leander, and then once she meets Leander, her Leander and their team are going to uh, Leander and his group were hunting a dragon. Aoife was by herself hunting a dragon also. And so when they encounter each other, Leander's group is like, hey, maybe you don't want to go fight a dragon by yourself. Like, maybe come with us. And I think it ends up being a group of 7 of them. I want to say Leander's group was 6 people. So there are 7 of them against this dragon. Um, and then the, the without other intervening stories, the next story would be Tim's father in the Mirror of Life trapping in Everborough. And who knows how that story's going to go? We'll find out when we get to that story. Um, I feel like there was another question. Well, there's obviously many other questions. Oh, okay. So back to the cult idea. Uh, okay. So yes, now I'm curious what the object is. And again, this is me in the rabbit holes that I go down. Um, the object that was the centerpiece of this cult. This is rolling on the objects meaning chart. 41 and 71. So 41 is garbage and 71 is ornamental. Ornamental garbage. Huh. Okay, let's see what's around 41. Guidance and frightening. Um, ornamental. Okay. I'm going to roll on objects again. So this is going to give me 4. I'm not going to fully disregard garbage because I have some notions how this could work. Um, but let's see here. Give me 2 more descriptors of the object at the centerpiece of this cult. That's a 10, which is colorful, and a 46, which is heavy. So heavy, colorful garbage. Heavy, colorful, ornamental garbage. I'm going to do what my linguist brain likes to do. I'm actually going to look up the word garbage and the etymology of it. So, garbage comes from the late English garbage, from Anglo Norman, from Old French garber, to refine, make neat, or clean, of Germanic origin, from the Frankish garuijan, to make ready. Okay, okay, okay. To refine, make neat, or clean. This is an object meant to purify the members of this cult. Um, that's really interesting that garbage means the opposite of what we use it for. Yeah, because Let's start up here. English garbage. Food waste. Useless or disposable material. Nonsense, gibberish, something or someone worthless. Hmm. Well, no. Well, okay. So these actually can both work together, and maybe, maybe this cult is tied up with the legend that caused the Tinkerer to make this device in the first place. So, if it's ornamental garbage, I'm thinking of art displays that use waste material, things that have been thrown away and discarded as art pieces. So it could be something like that. It could be something that was like literally the first visual I have is like a broken deity's statue, but something that should be discarded but was recovered by this cult because they believe it has some sort of refining, purificational um, nature and effect on the people in the cult, the people who worship it properly, as all cults and religions like to insist. You didn't believe correctly. So the people who believe correctly, who worship correctly, they believe, gain some sort of spiritual purification from their faith and their belief in this thing. Now, the question is the legend, and I wish I could remember what the legend was. It was pursue. Oh, what was the legend? Pursue harm, I think was the legend. Objects. Let me look back here. Mutation legends. Uh, yes, 87 and 46. It was pursue harm. So, broadly, broad question, broadly asking, broadly speaking, is the cult and specifically their mystical object at the centerpiece of their cult, is that connected with the legend, the pursue harm legend that caused this tinkerer to create this magical device? I'm going to say 50-50 because the world's a big place and not everything is always connected. So it's a 65% chance. 61. On a 61, it is in fact connected. So, is this object actually magical, or is this like a cargo cult? Is this object in fact actually magical? Again, 65% chance, 50-50. 79. So this object is in fact not magical. It is just it's the centerpiece of a cult that believes it is, which is real. That's the real world. Um, so then it is interesting to consider that this legend is connected to a cult that worships a non-magical inanimate object. Um, that's a couple of steps, but it makes me wonder. Okay, what is the cult's motivation? I'm gonna have to rewatch this video because I've gone about 6 steps down backwards. Um, what is this cult's motivation? Because this will inform whether this idea works. What is their motivation? 88 and 38. See, okay. 88 is safety and 38 is heal. Okay, interesting. Um, I have this weird thing now about even about rolling real dice because I know it's happened several times just today that the single digit die in particular on 2 consecutive rolls the single digit die has rolled the same number. Like there it rolled 38 and 88. Which makes me think I'm not juggling it properly. Like it's sitting in my hand and I'm just moving my hand around. Um, Safety and heal. This makes me think that they think the healing is connected to the purification, the refinement that they think they gain from worshiping this object. Um, the safety makes me think that they think by healing and purifying themselves, they are making themselves safe against something, against the evils of the world, something like that. So I wonder if um, Tim's father being imprisoned in the mirror of life trapping, if this isn't really him being punished, like you've broken the tenets of the faith, you lost your faith, and so we're going to lock you in a jail cell. I wonder if they think if this is essentially a reindoctrination camp kind of idea, like that he has been imprisoned in this mirror of life trapping by himself for an indeterminable amount of time in order to force him to find his faith again. And this is like this is what the cult thinks is going to happen. Is that what's actually happening? Uh 40 something it was cocked, but uh yeah, well that's a 60, and on a 65 that is the case. Um so pursuing harm. See, now that the simplest route between these things is that the Tinkerer did create this device to control Mirror of Life trapping, because the harm that that is being pursued is the Tinkerer is viewing the cult's actions as harmful, and so is trying to release the people who have been trapped in this Mirror of Life trap. But we've already established that the Tinkerer did not know that the device would have that effect. So the thought that I had before that was that the intention for this device was to use it to animate the object and use the object to deceive the cult, and basically have the object tell the cult what you're doing is wrong, release all the people from the mirror of life trapping. Now, what's funny here is that this actually would probably play into the adventure that will end up happening with Leander and Aoife in Everborough, but having the information is absolutely useful. So, is it the case? Did this Tinkerer create this device with the intention of using it to animate specifically the non magical object that is at the center of this cult? 89. He did not. Huh. So I guess then the broader question is, did the Tinkerer create this device to, in order to use it to stop the cult and what the cult is doing? 31. So yes. So it's not by means of animating. I keep thinking statue. It's not by means of animating the object. It's by some other means. Um, but it is specifically in order to stop that cult, which is now interesting because that means the Tinkerer and Tim both are trying to stop the cult, but Tim stole the device from the Tinkerer rather than trying to work with the Tinkerer, which is interesting. Is the Tinkerer Tim's mother? 69. Okay. That would have been on a 50-50. On a 50-50, that's no. Hmm. I like it. I want to make it likely, which would give it a 75% chance, but I want to re-roll that with that. Okay. Is the Tinkerer Tim's mother? With it being likely, 75% chance. So if the answer's still no, roll a 75 or higher. A 32. Hmm. We will leave that aside for now. We will leave that as a surprise. If it ever comes up, if we ever get back around to that, we'll roll for that then. Um, but I like that idea because it creates potential reasons why Tim would have stolen the device to use it rather than worked with the Tinkerer if the Tinkerer was his mother. I guess the question is the Tinkerer really altruistic, or is the Tinkerer like, does the Tinkerer want to destroy this cult? That's a 40. So yes, the Tinkerer wants to destroy this cult. So maybe that's the reason, that's the difference of opinion. Does the Tinkerer want to kill the members of the cult? Not just destroy the cult, but like dispersing it. Does the Tinkerer want to kill the people in the cult? 82. They do not. Does Tim want to kill the members of the cult? That's a 19. So he fully does. So that's the difference. That's why Tim stole this device rather than working with the Tinkerer, because Tim has a more violent objective with the use of this device and knows that they probably had a full blown argument at some point with the Tinkerer about this. And the Tinkerer was like, "No, you will absolutely not use my device to kill people." And Tim was like, "All right, cool, man. I get it. That's cool. I understand. You don't want to end up like Robert Oppenheimer or the guy who invented dynamite. I can't remember his name. Nobel. Um, you don't want your creations to be." And then later that night came back and fucking stole the device to use it. Um, and so uh, I'm not. I'm going to re-roll for it now. I'm also going to re-roll for it when we run the session, and I'm going to abide by the roll on the day of the session. But is the Tinkerer Tim's? You know what? I keep saying Tim's mother. Is the Tinkerer Tim's other parent? That's a 74. I did say it was likely, so a 74 is just barely a yes. Is the Tinkerer Tim's sibling? That's a 62. Okay, so the Tinkerer is a family member of Tim's. Is the Tinkerer a family member of Tim's? 14. Yes. So the Tinkerer is Tim's family member. Whether it's mother, other parent, uncle, aunt, cousin, sibling, whatever it is a family member of Tim's, and the he stole it because they had a difference of opinion on how to use it. Um, perfect, perfect. I now like the idea that in some way the way that this device controls the mirror of life trapping is that in a Doctor Who-ish way, it reverses the polarity of the neutron flow. It reverses the effects of a mirror of life trapping without destroying it. So essentially, it would cause the mirror to release everybody trapped in it and trap everybody not currently inside of it within a certain area. Like, I'm going to have to work on that. You know what? There's a list of spell effects here. This is not a spell per se, but it is a magical effect. And so, knowing that, magic item descriptors, noble house, scavenging results, smells, spell effect. I'm going to go with spell effects. Um, Not the reversing. We know that that's part of it. Uh, what is the other half? What is the magical effect of the other half of the reversal? There's the half that is letting all of the prisoners out of the mirror. What is the other half? What's getting pulled in? Or what's happening there? 17 and 77. See, again, the single digit die roll the same thing. So 17 is conjure and 77 is radius. So within a certain radius, it conjures something. Um, that is not the same as releasing. So it releases all of the people trapped in it, but then it conjures something in a given radius. I'm going to say it's the radius that, let me see. I know there's, let's see. That's not a website. Google, and we're going to go to Mirror of Life Trapping because I think you have to be within a certain distance in order for it to work. Mirror of life trapping. Let's see here. If the mirror is hanging, any creature other than you that sees its reflection in the activated mirror while within 30 feet of it must succeed on a DC 15 charisma saving throw. Okay, so the radius is 30 feet. And so when this device created by this tinkerer reverses the polarity of the neutron flow um, of the mirror, it releases everybody trapped in it, but it also conjures additional things in that 30-foot radius. So a 60-foot circle. Possibly, I'm going to say a 60-foot circle and 30 feet up, so it's a dome. Um, Very interesting. So the question is, what would it conjure? Um, is it going to conjure creatures? Like that's the simplest that it releases everybody who's in it and then like conjures aberrations or something. Is it going to conjure creatures? And I want to say this is unlikely because I don't know, mildly boring. But that is still 50-50. So does it conjure creatures? 54, it does not. Um, so what do we have? It is not creatures. Does it conjure? Does it mutate? There's a list here, mutations. Does it conjure mutations? That feels unlikely also. Because it's not really conjuring, that's transmutation. I'm going to say that's even less likely. That's like a 35% chance of being the case. Does it conjure mutations or mutate things? 42, also not the case. What do you conjure? Does it well, you know what? Given the number of times I've rolled objects, does it conjure objects? And does it conjure animated objects? 86. It doesn't conjure objects. That's really weird. We have creatures. We have. Does it conjure port? Does it create portals? See, creating is evocation, I think. It doesn't feel like conjuration to me. Um, so I'm going to say this is a 35% chance also that it creates portals. That's a 27 though. So it conjures portals. I'm not a gigantic fan of that. I like the idea of it. You know what? We're going to disregard those roles. I like the idea of it conjuring objects, specifically because of how object related this whole train of narrative has been. That the device is designed to animate objects, so it makes sense that that's the effect it would have. The mirror is then conjuring new objects and creating new objects that are animated. Um, I'll have to develop some sort of mechanic that will determine how many, if it's related to the people that are in that area. I feel like it would be. And so the idea then for Tim, his end goal is to get the entire cult in the area of the mirror in that 60-foot diameter with the mirror and him and the device, activate the device, reverse the polarity on the mirror, release everybody in it. Does it? Hmm. That's transmutation. That's not conjuration. Well, I'm going to ask this, but I'm going to say this is also very, very unlikely. Does it turn all of the people or all of the people who fail a save, or does it turn people into objects, statues? That's a 39. But are they animated statues? That's a 48. So the idea that I like instead of that is that the mirror conjures objects, animated objects, which would be statues in this case, of the people in that radius. And so, and because Tim is activating the device, those objects follow his command. And so he would essentially then use those statues to attack the cult. He would use object replications of the cult members to fight and destroy the cult. That's exactly what's going to happen. I love it. It's fantastic. The dice have given so much today. All right, excellent. Well, we're going to save that. I don't know when the next installment, when the next mythic adventure, because what was supposed to be a one shot absolutely got split into two. The first episode is um, Hatches in the Storm. That's the title. Yep, Hatches in the Storm. The next part will pick up with the last 4 rounds of quote unquote combat. The last 4 rounds of the storm. Um, I'm not sure when that's going to happen. It'll be in the next week, week and a half. But until then, you guys will see me when you see me, and I will talk to you then.